Hi, and welcome to this FORNAV Coffee Break. My name is René Brummel. I'm a product specialist at FORNAV, and I will be your presenter today. As this coffee break is live, you can ask your questions via the GoToWebinar question window. We will answer them at the end of the coffee break. Today we're going to explain how to translate your Business Central reports, the easy way. Translation of reports is something that has always been harder than it should be. You need developers, extensions, and lots of time. What if we could make that easier? What if we could give you a list of all of the report captions you use, so you can simply type in the translations you need? No developers, no cost, no hassle. To demonstrate report translations, I'm going to use these steps. The prerequisites, what do I need to get going? In step 2, I will add standard Business Central translations. In step 3, I will update report translations. In step 4, I will add supplemental translations for payment method, legal conditions, etc. Let's start with the first step. Today I will be working in the Business Central Cloud Sandbox with the Business Central 2026 Wave 2 release. I've installed the FORNAV customizable report pack and I've executed the step-by-step wizard from the assisted setup to get started. Of course, everything I do today is also available in an on-premise environment. The easiest way to translate your reports is to have someone else translate them for you. Unfortunately, with most languages in Business Central, this actually is an option. Microsoft have added free and ready-to-install language packs on AppSource that you can install. If your report captions are based on table captions, this is the quickest way to translate a report. So first things first, let's see what we have. I'm in a Danish localization at the moment, Kronos, Denmark, which means that if I have my invoices, I have an English invoice here. This, of course, is printed in English. Everything works just as expected. If I have a Danish invoice, it is printed in Danish because it's Danish localization. All of the Danish translations are in the system. But if I have, for instance, a Dutch invoice, language code NLD, and print this report, you can see that parts of the report are translated. You can see that the invoice has been changed to factuur, which is Dutch. Page has been changed to pagina, and subtotal and total are also translated. That's because those are translations that are built into the FORNAV report pack, and we supply translations for all of those standard translations. Some of the other stuff, customer, document date, due date, description, etc., those are based on Business Central tables. Those are actually captions for the customer table, captions for the document date field, etc. Those are not translated because these translations are not in the system by default. Fortunately, we can add them to the system. If I go to AppSource, and if you're on-premise, you can install these from the Business Central installation DVD. On cloud, you can use AppSource, which always takes a little while, and it seems to take longer if you do coffee breaks. That's not what I wanted. If I search for Dutch, you can see that there are two language packs available, Dutch language Belgium and Dutch language Netherlands. I'm based in the Netherlands, so I will install the Netherlands app. And what this does is it will install all of the standard translations for the standard Business Central tables and fields. So if I go to my sales, posted sales invoices, print my Dutch invoice, you can see that all of a sudden most of the stuff is now actually translated. Customer is klant, document date is document datum, etc., etc. Most of the bits in here are changed. So that's a nice start. So installing the AppSource language extension gave us the basic translations for most fields. But what if I use a custom extension that has no translations? And what if I need to change specific terminology? What if I want to use patient instead of customer? This is where the fine-tuning language of FORNAV comes in. And what do I mean with that? Let's open our FORNAV standard reports. In recent releases, we have added a new feature on the FORNAV report card, which is called Translate Report. And in here, if I click this, I can get a full list of all of the object translations that I use in this specific report. And you noticed, I'll start it again, that when I start this, I need to choose a layout name. And that's because in FORNAV, different layouts can use different fields and captions. So it's important to choose the layout that you're actually working on. I'll stick with the standard FORNAV layout now. And you can see in here, if I open this list, that for instance, the report caption is invoice, and that is an object caption, meaning that we use the standard caption from the report object. I can change this. Let's say we're working for a medical company, to expenses claim. I can change customer to patient. Now you can see some translations have been changed, so we need to import what's been changed. And I close this. If I run this report for an English customer, you can see that the report is now no longer called invoice, it is called expenses claim, and the customer is no longer called customer, it is the customer is called patient. So that's a really simple way to change some standard translations. And of course, I can do this for different languages as well. We're working on Dutch. So I will change the report caption. The nice thing about Dutch is that it's actually a lot like English and Danish. So even though you may not understand the language, you probably get the gist of what I'm saying. I can change some more stuff as well, like the description of the line. You can see in here all of the source tables. So if I want to change the description of the source of the sales lines, I can simply say werk verricht or work done. And when I'm done, I can import the changed translations. Run my report. And you can see that it's no longer called factuur, but declaratie. Patient or customer is called patiënt, and the description of the sales line is now werk verricht. Finally, I'll go back to the English translation. A nice trick about this, sometimes you end up with a translation that is too long. So let's do something stupid. Let's change number to enumerator. Which is maybe a little bit silly, but it will explain what I mean. If I preview this report again, you can see that enumerator is now split weirdly across the lines. And that's because FORNAV does not know how to split enumerator logically if there is no space for it. We have a nice feature for that. If we go to the translate report again, find our enumerator, you can see by the way that enumerator now uses the FORNAV language as its translation source. If I add something called a soft hyphen here, which is for me on the top left of my keyboard, this soft hyphen is something that FORNAV is not going to print, but FORNAV knows now that the soft hyphen is where the word should be broken. Import my changes again, run the report. And you can see now that enumerator is split exactly where I told FORNAV to split the word. So that's a nice little trick to find what to break words that may otherwise be broken in illogical places. Finally, you can see and change all of your language changes in the FORNAV language. This has been there in Business Central in FORNAV since forever. We just made it a bit easier to work with the button on the report card. But in here you see all of the changes that we've done. So you can see that the report name has been changed to expenses, claim, customer to patient, etc., etc., etc. You can manage your translations in here just as well as you can change them in the report card. So the nice thing about the translations in the report card is it gives you exactly a full list of everything that's been used in the report. Finally, we will need to do something about the payment terms, legal conditions, and other descriptions on the report, because those are still in English, Danish, whatever setup that we have. These are setup tables, so the FORNAV translation tools are not usable here. They're not field captions, they are actual content from the database. But fortunately, Business Central lets you translate these fields, and FORNAV will use these translations without any further setup. So back to Business Central. To run our report in Dutch so you can see what I mean. Pretty much everything has been translated apart from the content I mentioned. You can see that the country is Nederlanden, however you pronounce it in Danish. That's not actually how you say Netherlands in Dutch. The payment conditions, they are missing a couple of N's. This is Danish, not Dutch. And of course the please pay payment text, payment note, and legal conditions on the FORNAV setup need to be translated as well. So let's start with the FORNAV setup. In the FORNAV setup, we have the payment note and legal conditions, and we of course have translations for those as well. Come on. Change the payment note, change the legal condition. So that's the first thing. Then we wanted payment terms. Payment terms also have translation options. We'll grab the 30 days net, or copy those and add a translation. As I said, Dutch is fairly similar to Danish. All I need to do here is add 2 N's. And finally, the country region. They also have translations. So in here, search for NL and add a country region translation. And change that to Nederland. And when we now run the report, country has changed. Payment terms is now in Dutch, and the payment note and legal conditions on the FORNAV setup are also changed to Dutch. So there we go. Translated a complete report in 15 minutes while explaining what I was doing. Let's recap what we just did. The first thing we did was to add the standard Business Central language pack for the language we want to translate. We saw that we could get the language pack from AppSource on cloud, and if you're on-prem, you will find them on the installation DVD. And this will give us most of the translations that we need. We then use the translation option on the report card to fine-tune our translations. We found that we could easily translate some of the very specific report terminology, like changing customer to client or patient. Finally, we added translations for some of the setup table, like the FORNAV payment note or the payment terms. Business Central provides translation options for most of the setup tables, and FORNAV will read these translations without any further setup or programming. Thank you very much for listening to me so far. I will just see if there are any questions. There are no questions at this moment, so I'm just going to wrap up this coffee break. If you want to know more about FORNAV, or if you want to download the FORNAV toolbox, please visit our website. If you want to install FORNAV in Business Central Cloud, please visit Microsoft AppSource. You can watch more videos about FORNAV on our YouTube channel, and if you have any questions about FORNAV, please email them to support@fornav.com. For the full list of upcoming and recorded coffee breaks, please visit fornav.com/coffeebreak. With that, thank you very much for joining me today, and goodbye.